Baby, lay on back and relax. Kick your pretty feet up on my dash. No need to go nowhere fast. Let's enjoy right here where we at.
Hi guys! So today I'm going to be talking about Ray's birth story, or my labor and delivery story, whatever. And I had to write notes because I'm super scatterbrained, and I was like, I'm gonna end up babbling for like 30 minutes. So anyway, basically Ray's birth story was the worst day of my life, but the best day. And I know that's like cliche, but seriously, it was horrible, and then good, and then horrible. Okay, so my birthday is March 28th. So on March 28th, we went to Chili's for dinner for my birthday. And while we were there, okay, I ordered a buffalo chicken sandwich because I heard that like hot food can put you into labor. So, and as we were eating, I was texting my friend Melissa, and I was like, oh, I'm already having contractions, which I was, but I just thought that they were Braxton Hicks because they didn't really hurt. So I was like, oh yeah, I'm having contractions, maybe I'm in labor, maybe she'll be born on my birthday. So anyway, I was totally joking. So we just go home and go to bed like normal. And then I wake up at 12:45 about to puke. So I like mad dash to the bathroom, puke everything I ate at Chili's. Like, it was disgusting. I will never eat that sandwich again. So I'm like, okay, some people, like, that's the sign that they're in labor, they puke. Or maybe like I think preeclampsia, that's like a sign of it. So I was like a little bit nervous. And then I puked again exactly an hour later. So I was like, I was texting my sister, like, should I be worried? Like, I don't know. I tried to Google stuff, but Google is one extreme or the other. It's like, no, you're fine, suck it up, or like, yeah, you need to go to the hospital right now. So anyway, I was like, I need to just talk to a person and not Google. So anyway, she was like, no, it's probably a stomach bug, I wouldn't worry about it. So I was like, okay, let me just try and sleep through it. And then I think at like 2 o'clock, between 2 and 3, I was still having contractions since we had dinner, but it was the first one that I was like, that hurt exactly where it hurt with my other two, like back labor, like butt cheeks, right above, like these two spots. It feels like someone's putting a knife in your back and twisting it. So that was the first time I was like, nope, this is real labor. I know that feeling. I've had it before twice with my other kids. Like, I know that feeling. So anyway, at here, let me look at my notes. Oh, at 3:30, I hear Brett in his room crying, and I'm like, oh no. I knew immediately he puked. So I'm like, okay, obviously this is a stomach bug, so that's good. So maybe the contractions are just because I'm puking. So I go in his room, and I'm like cleaning off his sheets, and I'm like stripping his bed. And I guess the smell of it got to me, or maybe it was just my time again. I was like, oh, I have to puke again. So I book it back into my room. And Robbie's like, oh, did Brett puke? And I was like, yes, I'm about to again. And I didn't make it to the toilet. So we're not going to talk about that. Anyway, so that was like the third or fourth time that I puked. So I'm like, okay, these contractions are just because I'm sick. It's not a big deal. But then the contractions were like seriously picking up, and every single one at this point was hurting. So at 3:38, I texted my sister and I said, I think I'm in labor. Okay, so at 3:50, I had been timing them for like 30 minutes just to see if they were consistent. They were like 4 minutes apart. So we called my mom at 4 and told her that she should probably come over, even if I wasn't in true labor, just to be here because the kids were sick, I was sick, and I felt terrible, and Robbie had to go to work the next morning. So my mom they left their house at 5 and it takes them 2 hours to get here. So honestly, by the time they got here at 7, I had pretty much felt a little bit better. Like, Brett had gone back to sleep. I don't think he puked again that night. I think he slept again until the morning. So I pretty much felt fine, and I was not fine, but just like sick, but okay. So mom gets there and she's just kind of like helping clean or whatever, just there. And so she's like, well, while I'm here, you might as well call the doctor and just like go in just in case they want to check you out or whatever. So I was like, all right, whatever. So we go into the doctor at 9, and this was on a Thursday now. So I had been to the doctor for my 39-week checkup on Tuesday, and I was high, tight, closed, like no progression at all. Okay, so now I go in on Thursday, and she was like, oh, you're a solid 4.5. And I'm like, sweet, like that all happened last night. That's good. Okay, so she's like, pretty much go home, pack your bags, try to sleep a little bit, and then come back this afternoon. So that's what we did. We came home. I was like pretty much still having contractions. I tried to sleep, but Brett was really sick, and he kept like crying for me, and I felt so guilty just like laying in my bed, like not helping him, I guess. I don't know. So I didn't really sleep much. I just pretty much sat on the couch like all day with Brett. And I was gonna say I went to the store, but I didn't. I sent Robbie because I was sick. Okay, so then about lunchtime or something, Robbie starts puking. And I was like, this is some kind of bad joke. Like, seriously, everyone in my house is puking, and I'm about to go to the hospital to have a baby. Like, this cannot get any worse. So, I pretty much just labored through it, and, like, okay, my mom was pretty much helping Brett all day because he was puking so much, and, like, every time he took a sip of drink, he would just puke it back up. So my mom was helping Brett. My dad was pretty much watching Lydia. Now Robbie's sick. So I'm having to basically labor completely by myself. Like, no support system, no one. Like, when I was in labor with Lydia, like, my mom and sister came, and Annette was like holding cold rags on my back, or like massaging my back, or rubbing a tennis ball on my, or like, I don't know, it just helps to have people there to make you feel better. And this labor, nobody could help me. I was just feeling terrible by myself, having to suck it up because everyone was miserable. And anyway, it was horrible. So by like 6 o'clock, I think, 6 p.m., I had had enough. I was like, I think it's time to go back. You know, it's been 10 hours or 9 hours since we were at the doctor this morning. Like, I think I've progressed a lot. Let's go back in and have it checked out or whatever. And at the doctor, she said, don't come back to the office, just go straight to the hospital, because, like, this is a real deal. So I go into the hospital, and my mom took me because obviously Robbie was still sick. He could not even get out of bed. So we get to the hospital, and they check me in really quickly. And the first nurse checks me, and she's like, how far along were you this morning? I was like, I don't know, 4.5. And she's like, that's not right, because I think you're barely at a 4. And I was like, you're joking. I was like, I just labored for 9 hours, or I mean longer at this point. I was like, what? Like, I haven't budged in the past 8 hours. This is crazy. So she's like, well, it's all right, we'll monitor you for a little bit. And I was like, no, give me the discharge papers. I'm not about to sit here for another 36 hours if it's going to take that long. I'm going home. So she didn't argue that, they thought that was a good idea. So the doctor came in, my OB, and she was like, yeah, it's a good idea to go home. And honestly, I think these are just Braxton Hicks because they're not regular. Like, they're not time, like, they were like 7 minutes apart, 3 minutes apart, 8 minutes apart, 5 minutes apart, 15 minutes apart. I was like, but they felt like real contractions. Like, I know the feeling. So she's like, no, I just think they're Braxton Hicks, which really offended me. I was like pretty mad that she said that, because I was like, no, like, you're totally calling me a baby right now because these hurt and you're basically telling me that they're not even true. So anyway, she was like, yeah, just go home. So I just went home, and we got home at about 9 o'clock. And I just tried to go to bed. I did sleep a little bit. It was kind of like 15-minute naps here and there. And then I would have to get up and walk around because it, like, back labor seriously hurts so bad. And, like, I like, just thinking about it is making my back arch. Anyway, so I'm trying so hard not to wake Robbie up. So I'm pacing the house. Like, this is so ridiculous. This is, like, lonely and painful, and everyone's sleeping except me, and I just feel terrible. I know that sounds like really selfish. All I wanted was someone with, like, being miserable with me, or not miserable with, I don't know. So anyway, at about 2 o'clock, 2:30, now this has been 24 hours of this, I finally wake Robbie up. Like, I'm at the foot of our bed, like, bending over, like, rocking my hips back and forth. Like, I screamed. I was like, we have to go. I said I wanted this to be med-free, but I can't do this anymore. If we go into the hospital and I am still not progressing, I'm getting an epidural right now. Like, I can't do this anymore. So he's like, okay, that's fine. So we, like, get ready to go. And my mom comes down so she can hear the babies if they wake up. So we get to the hospital at about... Okay, first of all, I've heard this before and it's completely accurate for me. When you're in transition, I think that means when you're going from like 5, 6, 7 centimeters, you can tell because your mood changes. And it's so true. Like, all day when I was going through labor, I was like, ow, 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 like, you know, in labor. And then once, like, this 2 o'clock in the middle of the night hit, this must have been transition, because I was like a witch. Like, when we were trying to get packed up, I remember thinking this, like, Robbie's walking around the house, poor guy's like so sick and trying to get his stuff together. It's the middle of the night, it's dark in the room, and I remember, like, sitting on the bed thinking, what is taking him so long? Let's go. Like he has no idea what I'm going through. I was like so mad. And looking back, I'm like, oh my goodness, like, what kind of jerk? But I was in transition, so it's okay. And then on the way to the hospital, I remember I was like screaming at him to stop singing to the radio, because I was like, if I'm miserable, I want you to be miserable too. You're not allowed to sing right now. And he, like, laughed at me. He's like, okay. I was like, whatever. It hurt so bad, and being in the car is the worst thing ever. Like, you're strapped down, you can't move at all. I couldn't stand, I couldn't move. You're just having to sit there. Luckily, it was only like 15-20 minutes to the hospital. So we get to the hospital, it's like 3:30, and we have to park like pretty far away. And I'm like walking, because, okay, sorry, I'm like backtracking now. We had to park far away because I didn't want him to park in the emergency room parking lot. Then we go get checked in. Then he has to come all the way back down to the emergency room, go all the way to the parking garage, and then come all the way back up. I, like, wanted him with me the whole time. So we just parked in the parking garage, and I had to walk like a mile into the hospital. So on the way in, I thought I was going to have the baby in the parking lot. There was one point, there was a bench like on the side of the sidewalk, and I was like, we have to take a break, because I was carrying, like, we had bags and pillows and, you know, everything for the hospital. So I remember on that bench, I like threw all the bags down, and I'm like rocking back and forth, and I seriously thought, I'm so glad I'm going to have the baby in the hospital parking lot and that we're not at home anymore, because if we were home, I would be having the baby in the driveway. I was like, I'm serious. Like, I was about to tell him to go get help because she was coming. Like, it seriously felt like this is it. Anyway, that was the longest contraction of my life. I think it lasted a solid 2 minutes. It was ridiculous. And anyway, finally it went away, and I was like, we've got to get up there right now because she is coming, like, now. So we get all checked in. We got checked in, like, I think it was maybe almost 4 o'clock. And then they check me, and it was the same nurse that I had like a couple hours ago, and I was so glad it was the same one because I was really embarrassed when they were like, oh, I think it's just Braxton Hicks. I was like, what if she's right? Like, what if I'm being such a baby right now? Anyway, it was the same nurse that said I was barely a 4, and she checked me, and she's like, whoa, you're like over an 8. And I was like, oh, it was music to my ears. I was so petrified that when I got there that she was going to be like, you're at like a 5 or 6 by now. Like, I was so scared, but I didn't care at that point. I was like, I'm getting drugs because I can't handle this anymore. So when she said I was 8, it was like, woo! I was in true labor. I was progressing by myself. And now that I'm at an 8, I am not going to get meds because I'm almost done. So what's the point now? So that was like so great. So anyway, I labored for another hour and a half or less, and contractions kind of like laid off at the end. It was crazy. Like, I didn't even feel contractions for a long time, and they kept asking like, how are you doing? And I was like, I'm seriously fine. Like, I don't even feel contractions right now. Like, I would go 20 minutes and be like, this is so weird. Did it stop? Like, what's going on? Then all of a sudden I was just like, oh, I think I have to push. But okay, I didn't really want to mention this, but I guess I can't go without saying I was puking, and I also had diarrhea. So when you're pushing, it feels exactly like you're pushing. So she's like, okay, well, let's do a practice push. And I was like, nope, I'm gonna have a little accident. And she's like, no, it's okay. You need to just push if you feel pressure. And I'm like, I was fighting it so bad because I really just thought I was gonna like go. And so she's like, no, like, even if you do, you need to just push because she's right there. So, bleh, sorry. So, finally all the doctors come in, and they're like all ready, and I started pushing at 4:40, and I was still fighting it at that point. Like, every other push was a real push. I'd be like, okay, I'd have a really good one, and then the next one I'd be like, no, I can't push. Like, this is horrible. I can't, this feeling is awful. Like, there's nothing in the world like feeling like you're about to poop on someone's face. Like, it's disgusting. So I would fight it. So anyway, finally at 5:08, she came out, and I was like, whew, what a relief. It still hurt like crazy. And I screamed so loud. Robbie said that I looked like on a movie when a lady is in labor and they're screaming. He's like, that's what you looked like. And I knew it too, because the second she came out, I couldn't even speak. Like, my throat hurt so bad. I was like, I need water. And they were like laughing at me, but anyway, she finally came out, and it hurt so bad. Honestly, I don't even really remember. I just remember wanting this child out so bad. Like, just get out. I'm over this. I'm done. This is happening. So anyway, the recovery was horrible. I don't know why, but when I was in labor, something in my left leg was just like pinching. Every single contraction, it hurt. And I don't think it was sciatic nerve, because I think that's something you get like during your pregnancy too, and I didn't until I was in labor. It hurt so bad, and the recovery for 2 weeks after, it hurt so bad. It was torture. So anyway, yeah, it was The recovery was terrible because of that soreness, and my back was so sore from having back labor for so long, because if I went into labor while I was having dinner at Chili's, that would be almost 36 hours that I was in labor with nothing to relax me. No, I did take a few baths with some Epsom salt in it because my water hadn't broken yet. But other than that, I did not have any interventions, no help, no coaching, just labor for 36 hours. That was torture. Anyway, the recovery was not good. I've always heard that if you don't get an epidural, oh, as soon as you have the baby, you feel so great. No. I felt terrible for at least 2 weeks after. I was having a hard time walking. I was so sore. Obviously, I was recovering from being sick as well. Anyway, it was so bad and then so good that I had her, and then the recovery was horrible. But I had her, and she's the sweetest. Let me show you. Aww. She is the sweetest little thing ever. I worked so hard for this girl, and she's so worth it. She's dreaming about me. So that is my birth story for Ray.